Zix 427 stared at the holographic display, their four eyes blinking in confusion. After 20 years of working in the Galactic Council's Planetary Classification Department, they had never seen anything like this. The readings from the small blue planet in the Sol system couldn't be right. "Computer, run the scan again," Zix 427 said, their voice trembling slightly. The computer beeped and repeated the analysis. The results were the same. The researchers' tentacles curled in distress. According to these readings, this planet, designated as Earth by its inhabitants, should be completely lifeless. Yet it wasn't just hosting life. It had a spacefaring civilization that somehow had been overlooked in the galaxy's database for centuries. Within hours, the Galactic Council's emergency response protocol was activated. They selected their best first contact specialist, Amanda Pierce, and paired her with Dr. Kevin Blake, the leading xenobiologist in the Orion Arm. Both humans had proven themselves exceptional in their fields, though the Council remained uncertain about working with such an unknown species. The research vessel Stellar Seeker approached Earth's orbit 3 days later. Amanda stood at the observation deck, her brown hair floating in the low gravity as she watched her home planet grow larger in the viewport. Beside her, Dr. Blake adjusted the settings on his handheld scanner. "The readings are off the charts," he said, frowning at the device. "These atmospheric pressure variations would crush most known sentient species, and the temperature range." He shook his head in disbelief. Amanda smiled. "Seems pretty normal to me. Though I guess that's the whole point of why we're here." The ship's alien crew kept their distance from the two humans. Despite working together for years, they had never fully understood how their human colleagues could move so quickly, eat such a wide variety of foods, or survive such extreme conditions. Now they were beginning to understand why. Chief Science Officer Clicks, a tall, spindly being from a low-gravity world, approached them with a new set of scans. "We've detected active volcanic chains, regular seismic activity, extreme weather patterns, and highly aggressive fauna," they reported, their translator struggling to keep up with their agitated clicks. "By all standard measurements, this planet should be classified as..." "As what?" Amanda asked, noting Clicks's hesitation. "There must be an error," Clicks insisted. "The readings suggest Class 13 conditions, but that's purely theoretical. No planet could sustain life at that level." Dr. Blake laughed softly. "Well, 8 billion humans would disagree with you." The news spread through the ship like wildfire. The crew began reviewing historical data from Earth, footage of humans running marathons in desert heat, surviving in Arctic conditions, healing from injuries that would kill most species, and eating foods that would be toxic to 90% of known civilizations. In the ship's conference room, Amanda prepared her initial report to the Galactic Council. The implications were staggering. Humans hadn't just survived on a Class 13 Deathworld. They had thrived, built civilizations, and developed space travel, all while thinking their planet was perfectly normal. "They're going to panic, you know," Dr. Blake said, helping her organize the data. "The Council has no protocol for this. Finding a new species is one thing, but finding one that evolved on a Deathworld, that changes everything we thought we knew about survival and adaptation." Amanda nodded, thinking about how her own people had no idea they were about to become the most talked-about species in the galaxy. "We should probably warn them that humans might find their worlds a bit boring." As the Stellar Seeker completed its orbital survey, more shocking data poured in. Earth's gravity was high enough to crush most sentient species. Its atmospheric composition would be toxic to many races. Even its bacteria were more aggressive than most planets' apex predators. The ship's AI calculated that 82% of known spacefaring species would die within hours of setting foot on Earth without protective equipment. Yet humans had been running, jumping, swimming, and climbing in these conditions for their entire history. As Amanda finished her report, she couldn't help but smile at the final line she wrote. "Earth isn't just a death world. It's the death world." and its people have no idea just how extraordinary they are. Dr. Blake looked over her shoulder at the report and grinned. The council is going to need a drink when they read this. Several drinks, Amanda corrected him. And probably a new classification system, too. In the observation deck above them, Earth continued its rotation, beautiful and deadly, completely unaware that it was about to shake the foundations of galactic society. The main chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as the holographic display showed Earth's classification data. The massive room, usually filled with the gentle hum of conversation among hundreds of species representatives, was completely quiet. Even the usual soft glow of the bioluminescent ceiling crystals seemed dimmer than usual. Catherine Mills stood at the center platform, her heart beating faster as she faced the council. As Earth's newly appointed representative, she had the difficult task of explaining why her homeworld had broken their entire classification system. "As you can see," she said, gesturing to the rotating hologram of Earth, "our planet has 5 active tectonic plates, regular volcanic activity, and extreme weather patterns that would qualify it as Class 8 alone." She paused, letting that sink in. But that's just the beginning. The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their environmental suits. Some species required special chambers just to survive the standard atmosphere of the council chamber. The idea of a planet like Earth seemed impossible to them. The atmospheric pressure variations on Earth would qualify it as Class 9, Catherine continued. The gravity would make it Class 10. The aggressive fauna and flora push it to Class 11. The temperature ranges add another level, making it Class 12. She took a deep breath. And then there's the radiation from our sun, the atmospheric composition, and the bacterial life forms. Altogether, Earth exceeds even theoretical Class 13 parameters. A wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. Council member Vrix 92, a floating gas-based life form, moved forward in their containment sphere. "This is unprecedented," they said through their translator. "No known species has evolved in such conditions. It explains much about human physiology and capabilities." Catherine nodded, remembering her first meeting with other species. She had accidentally broken a door handle, not realizing that her normal human strength was enough to crush materials designed for standard galactic use. The Council's chief scientist, Dr. Zylo, projected new data onto the display. "Our studies show that humans have several abilities we previously thought impossible." They clicked excitedly. "They can repair broken bones, survive extreme blood loss, and regrow damaged tissue. They can adapt to radical changes in temperature and pressure. They can eat foods that would kill most species instantly." In the back of the chamber, a group of military advisors watched with growing concern. One of them, General Pextall, stepped forward. "And what of their military potential? A species evolved in such conditions would be nearly unstoppable in standard combat situations." Catherine had been expecting this question. "Humanity comes in peace," she said firmly. "Yes, we are physically capable of things that seem extreme to you. But we've learned to control our strength, just as you've learned to control your various abilities." The debate raged for hours. Some council members wanted to quarantine Earth immediately. Others saw the potential benefits of having such a resilient species as part of the galactic community. A few were simply curious about how humans had survived it all. Finally, Council leader Nexus 7 raised all 4 of their appendages for silence. "We cannot ignore the facts before us," they announced. "Earth's classification requires us to create an entirely new system. But more importantly, we must decide how to proceed with human integration into galactic society." Catherine felt a small victory. At least they were talking about integration rather than isolation. She brought up her final hologram, showing humans helping with disaster relief on various worlds. "We may have evolved in harsh conditions," she said, "but that has made us uniquely qualified to help others. Where you see a dangerous species, I see potential allies who can go places and do things that others cannot." The council members began discussing among themselves. Catherine watched as her words sank in. She knew this was just the beginning. There would be fear, prejudice, and misunderstanding. But there would also be opportunities for humanity to prove itself. Very well, Nexus 7 declared after the discussion settled. We will establish a new classification system, with Earth as the benchmark for the highest category. And we will begin the process of human integration into galactic society. They turned their glowing eyes to Catherine. Though I suggest we start slowly, very slowly. Catherine smiled, thinking of how her people would react to being called the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Most would probably take it as a compliment. As she left the chamber, she heard two council members whispering. Did you know they sleep through the night? 8 hours of unconsciousness, every day, on a Class 13 world. Peter Walsh walked down the gleaming hallway of the Galactic Embassy, trying not to smile as alien diplomats pressed themselves against the walls to avoid him. After 2 months as Earth's diplomatic liaison, he was used to their fear. The former Marine understood their reaction. To them, he was basically a monster from a nightmare world. He entered the main conference room where Lisa Carter, an environmental scientist, was showing holographic images of Earth to a group of wide-eyed aliens. On the screen, a simple thunderstorm played out. This is a mild weather event on Earth, Lisa explained to the gasping audience. We get these every few weeks in most regions. One of the alien scientists, a floating crystal being named PEX-12, flashed different colors in distress. Your young ones survive these energy discharges. The electrical potential alone would destroy most species' nervous systems. We actually like storms, Peter added from the doorway. Some humans even chase them for fun. The aliens stared at him in horror. Peter had learned that sometimes the truth about Earth was scarier than any story they could imagine. Lisa continued her presentation, showing images of different Earth environments. The desert made the aliens click in fear. The ocean made them tremble. But it was the city scenes that really shocked them. Millions of humans living normally in what the galaxy considered impossible conditions. Your buildings, a bug-like alien asked, its antenna twitching. They stay up even when the ground shakes. We build them that way on purpose, Lisa explained. We call it earthquake-proof construction. Peter watched as the aliens took notes frantically. In just a few months, humanity had become the galaxy's most studied species. Every detail about Earth life amazed them. Later that day, Peter met with the Galactic Security Council. They wanted to know about human military capabilities. He tried to be diplomatic, but the truth was shocking enough. So, said the head of the council, a tall, glowing being, your soldiers train by running long distances carrying heavy weights. Yes, Peter replied. Usually about 50 pounds of gear, sometimes more. The council members looked at their data pads. What Peter hadn't told them was that he used to run with twice that weight in the Marines. No need to scare them more than necessary. And this activity you call camping? Another council member asked. Humans do this for fun. They'd willingly sleep outside in primitive conditions. Peter nodded. It's a popular hobby. Kids learn it in scout groups. The council chamber erupted in worried whispers. Teaching children to survive in deadly conditions is a hobby. It was unthinkable to them. In the embassy garden, designed to mimic Earth conditions, Lisa was showing a group of alien scientists how Earth plants grew. The aliens wore protective suits just to enter the garden. These plants, one scientist said through their translator, they produce oxygen as a waste product, a highly corrosive gas. Yes, Lisa said, our entire planet is filled with it. We breathe it to live. Peter joined them in the garden, picking up a simple earth apple. The aliens watched in amazement as he bit into it. You process raw biological material, without chemical treatment? A scientist asked in shock. We call it eating fresh fruit, Peter said. It's healthy for us. Later that evening, Peter and Lisa sat in the embassy's human-only break room, drinking coffee, another thing that horrified most alien species. Sometimes I forget how strange we must seem to them, Lisa said, looking out at the alien city through reinforced windows. The local gravity was so weak that humans had to wear special boots to stay grounded. Peter nodded. Today they asked me about human children playing in mud. You should have seen their faces when I explained about water parks. Did you tell them about extreme sports? Lisa asked with a grin. Are you kidding? They're still trying to understand why we go outside during rain. Let's save skateboarding and skydiving for next year. Through the window, they could see the city's 3 suns setting, casting a purple glow across the alien landscape. Somewhere out there, Earth spun on, beautiful and deadly, while its people went about their normal lives, still not fully understanding just how extraordinary they were. You know what's funny? Peter said. Back home, we always wondered if we were alone in the universe. Turns out the universe was wondering how anything could possibly live on Earth. Christopher Hayes stood in front of his closed shop on New Centauri Station, looking at the fresh graffiti on his window. The alien symbols translated roughly to "No Deathworlders." It was the 3rd time this week someone had vandalized his store. A passing maintenance robot quickly cleaned the writing, but the message was clear. Not everyone wanted humans on the station. Chris sighed and opened his shop anyway. He had work to do. Inside, he began lifting heavy crates of trade goods. Each box weighed about 200 pounds in Earth gravity, but here in the station's lighter gravity, they felt like empty cardboard. He didn't even need the anti-grav units that other species required. His first customer of the day was a tall, willowy alien named Zix. Like many of the station's residents, Zix came from a low-gravity world. I need these items, Zix said, holding out a data pad. But the boxes are too heavy for my kind to move. Chris smiled warmly. I'll help you with that. He easily picked up the large container that Zix had been struggling with. The alien stepped back in surprise. You lift that, without machinery? Zix asked. It's not very heavy for me, Chris explained. Earth's gravity is much stronger than this. Down the corridor at the station's medical center, Dr. William Bennett was facing his own challenges. The human doctor had been hired because of his ability to work in various gravity conditions, but his alien patients were still nervous around him. Please, he said gently to a frightened alien child, I just need to scan your arm. I promise I won't hurt you. The child's parent, a floating gas-based life form, pulsed with worry. Your species is so strong. What if you break something? William showed them his hands. I've treated beings of all types. Humans can control their strength very well. We have to, living on Earth. Just then, emergency alarms blared through the station. A cargo bay door had malfunctioned, exposing the area to hard vacuum. Without thinking, William rushed to help. He put on a pressure suit, something most humans were trained to use, and entered the damaged area. The scene was chaos. 2 alien workers were trapped behind fallen cargo. In the low pressure, most species couldn't function well enough to help. But William, used to Earth's harsh conditions, moved quickly to free them. Later that day, Chris was closing his shop when he heard about William's rescue. The story was already spreading through the station. Humans might be scary, but they were also incredibly helpful in emergencies. A group of alien children watched him from across the corridor. Unlike their parents, they seemed more curious than afraid. One of them waved, and Chris waved back. Is it true? The bravest child asked through a translator. Can you really drink water with hydrogen and oxygen in it? Chris laughed. Yes, we call it plain water. Would you like to see something cool? He took out a water bottle and drank from it. The children watched in amazement. And you eat plants? Raw plants? Another child asked. We even grow them for fun, Chris said. It's called gardening. The children's parents arrived quickly to hurry them away, but Chris noticed they seemed less frightened than before. Small steps, he thought. That evening, Chris and William met at the station's human-adapted cafeteria. The room had stronger gravity and Earth-normal atmosphere, letting them relax without worrying about accidentally breaking things. Interesting day, William said, eating a sandwich, another concept that amazed aliens. I heard someone cleaned graffiti off your shop again. Chris nodded. But you know what's funny? After your rescue today, 3 new customers came to my shop. One even asked about trading for earth plants. They're starting to understand, William said. We're not monsters. We're just built differently. Through the station's massive windows, they could see stars streaming by. Somewhere out there, Earth kept spinning, its deadly storms and earthquakes continuing as always. But here, in space, its people were slowly showing the galaxy that being tough didn't mean being dangerous. Maybe, Chris said, being from a Deathworld isn't such a bad thing after all. Mary Rodriguez stood before the Galactic Defense Council, trying to stay calm. As Earth's ambassador, she knew this meeting would be difficult. The huge chamber was filled with military leaders from 50 different species, all worried about one thing: humans. Please understand, she said, her voice steady. Earth has no plans for military expansion. We want to be peaceful members of the galactic community. General Vax-9, a tall being made of crystalline structures, moved forward. But your capabilities concern us. Our tests show that standard peacekeeping weapons have little effect on humans. Mary nodded. She had seen the test results. What the aliens considered deadly force was often just uncomfortable for humans. A stun blast that could knock out most species for hours only made humans dizzy for a few minutes. That's exactly why you should trust us, she explained. Humans have had these abilities for our entire history. We've learned to be careful with our strength. In another part of the station, a demonstration was taking place. Steve Phillips, a human security expert, was showing alien military officers how humans trained. He was running on a treadmill in full gear, barely breaking a sweat. This is normal training for human peacekeepers, he explained between easy breaths. The aliens watched in shock as the display showed he had been running for 2 hours straight. And you do this for fun? One officer asked. Some of us do, yes. We call it marathon running, Steve replied. The aliens exchanged worried looks. Their species could barely move for 10 minutes in such conditions. Back in the council chamber, Mary was addressing another concern. Yes, humans can survive in most environments without special equipment. But we use this ability to help, not harm. She showed videos of human rescue workers saving people from disasters on different worlds. Humans walking through toxic atmospheres to fix damaged machinery. Humans lifting heavy debris that would require machines for other species. Your kind can survive radiation that would kill most species, another council member noted. You heal from injuries that would be fatal to us. True, Mary agreed, which makes us perfect for dangerous rescue missions and emergency response teams. The debate continued for hours. Some council members wanted strict controls on human activities. Others saw the potential benefits of having such capable allies. During a break, Mary met with Steve in a private room. How did the demonstration go? She asked. They're scared, he said, drinking water. Something that still amazed aliens with its high oxygen content, but also impressed. One of them asked if we could train their emergency teams. Mary smiled. This was progress. Fear turning to respect, then to cooperation. A young alien aide entered the room, looking nervous. Ambassador, the council is ready to continue. But first, is it true that human children play in conditions that would kill adult members of other species? You mean like swimming pools, or playing in the snow? Mary asked. Yes, that's true. The aide's color changed to a pale blue. And you let them. It's good for them, Steve explained kindly. Helps them grow stronger. When the council resumed, Mary faced them with new confidence. Yes, humans are different, she said. We evolved on a world you consider impossibly dangerous, but that same strength that scares you makes us valuable allies. She showed them one final image. Human and alien children playing together on a newly designed playground. The human kids were carefully helping their more fragile friends. "This is who we are," Mary said. "Strong enough to survive anywhere, but gentle enough to help those who can't. We don't want to fight. We want to protect." The council members whispered among themselves. Finally, General Vaxmine spoke. "Perhaps," they said slowly, "we have been looking at this wrong. Instead of fearing human strength, we should welcome it." As the meeting ended, Mary heard two officers talking. "Did you know they test their emergency plans by actually creating disasters?" "You mean their fire drills?" "Yes, terrifying, but useful." Mary smiled to herself. Sometimes being scary wasn't so bad, especially when it helped others feel safe. The alarms on Centauri Hub Station screamed through every corridor. Red emergency lights flashed as thousands of aliens rushed to evacuation points. The station's main reactor was failing, and the radiation levels were rising fast. Sarah Mitchell ran toward the problem instead of away from it. The human engineer led a small team of other humans, all wearing basic radiation suits. To other species, these suits were laughably thin, but humans could handle radiation levels that would kill most aliens instantly. "Status report." She called into her comm unit. "The containment field is at 20% and falling," replied Alan Brown, her second in command. "If it fails completely, half the sector will be destroyed." The alien station commander, a tall insectoid named Zix-12, stopped them at the last safety checkpoint. "You cannot go in there. The radiation levels are fatal." Sarah checked her radiation meter. The levels were high, but nothing humans hadn't handled before. "Fatal for your species, maybe. For us, it's just another Tuesday." She led her team through the heavy doors. The reactor room was chaos. The normal safety robots had failed. Their circuits couldn't handle the radiation. The automatic systems were down. Everything would have to be fixed by hand. "Just like Chernobyl cleanup," Alan said, moving to the main control panel. "Except this time, we know what we're doing." Sarah nodded. Throughout human history, people had worked in conditions like this. While other species saw it as impossibly dangerous, humans had been dealing with radiation, heat, and pressure since they first split the atom. The team worked quickly. Where aliens would need thick protective suits that made fine work impossible, humans could work with their hands almost normally. Where robotic systems would fail, human brains could still think and solve problems. "The containment field is failing faster," called out Linda Park, another engineer. "We have maybe 10 minutes." Sarah climbed up to the main reactor housing. The metal was hot enough to burn through most species' environmental suits. Her gloves smoked a little, but held. Being from Earth meant being tough enough to handle this. "Alan, reroute power to Section 4, she ordered. "Linda, get those coolant pipes working again." Through the observation window, hundreds of alien faces watched in horror and amazement. They saw humans working in conditions their own species couldn't survive for even a minute. They saw Sarah's team moving heavy equipment that would normally require powered lifting gear. "The field is stabilizing," Alen reported after 5 intense minutes. "Whatever you're doing up there, it's working." Sarah finished reconnecting the last set of power couplings. The reactor's angry red glow began to fade to its normal blue. The radiation levels started dropping. "Containment field at 60% and rising," Linda announced. "We did it." When they finally left the reactor room, they found a crowd waiting. The alien station commander was shaking so hard his translator had trouble keeping up. "You went in there. You worked in those conditions. You saved all our lives," 612 said. "How can we ever repay you?" Sarah pulled off her helmet, her face damp with sweat but smiling. "No need. This is why humans are here. We can help in ways others can't." The news spread quickly through the galaxy. Humans had saved one of the biggest space stations from disaster. They had done it without special equipment, without impossible technology. They had done it simply because they could survive where others couldn't. In the station's medical bay, doctors checked over Sarah's team. The aliens were amazed that the humans showed no signs of radiation sickness. "Your bodies are already repairing the minor radiation damage," one doctor said in awe. "No other species can do that." Later, in the human quarters, Sarah's team celebrated with coffee, a drink that would kill most alien species. They had proven something important today. Humans weren't just scary Deathworlders anymore. They were protectors. "You know what's funny?" Alan said, raising his cup. "Back on Earth, we're just normal engineers. Out here, we're practically superheroes." Sarah smiled. "Maybe that's why Earth is so tough. It wasn't trying to kill us. It was training us to help others." Through the station's windows, they could see ships arriving from all over the galaxy. Each one carried more humans, coming to help protect and serve. The Deathworlders had found their calling at last. 5 years had passed since Earth was first classified as a Class 13 Deathworld. Dr. John Carter stood in front of his class at the Galactic Academy, looking at the strange mix of students before him. Aliens of all species sat next to human students, all eager to learn about what made Earth special. "Today," he said, pointing to a hologram of Earth, "we're going to talk about how humans turned their greatest challenge into their greatest gift." The alien students wore protective suits, while the humans sat comfortably in what they considered normal air. Everyone had gotten used to these differences now. "When we first joined the galactic community," John continued, "everyone thought Earth was too dangerous to support life. Now, we help protect life across the galaxy." He showed images of recent events. Humans cleaning up radiation spills, working in high-pressure environments, lifting heavy objects in rescue operations. What had once scared other species now gave them hope. In orbit above them, the new Galactic Emergency Response Station was almost complete. Unlike other space stations, this one was built to Earth standards. Its halls were filled with human workers and the few alien species tough enough to train with them. Lucy Baker, the station's commander, walked through these halls with pride. She remembered when aliens wouldn't even come near humans. Now they requested human help for their most dangerous missions. "Commander," called out a young alien trainee, "is it true that humans used to fight wars with each other?" Lucy nodded. "Yes, but that's how we learned to be careful with our strength. Now we use it to protect others instead." In another part of the galaxy, a human research team was helping to colonize a new planet. The world was too harsh for most species, but to humans, it felt like a cool day in spring. "The air here would kill most aliens," said Paul Wilson, the team leader, as he planted earth trees in the alien soil. "But these plants will help clean it. In a few years, other species will be able to visit." Back at the academy, Dr. Carter showed his students the latest research. "Human DNA has secrets we're still discovering," he explained. "Our ability to heal, to adapt, to survive. It's helping us understand how life itself works." The alien students took careful notes. Many of them would go on to work with humans in emergency services or on dangerous research projects. "But the most important thing we learned," John said, "wasn't about our strength or our toughness. It was about understanding each other." He showed a final image, a human child helping an alien child learn to walk in Earth-like gravity. Both were wearing special suits that let them feel the same things, understand each other's worlds. In the station's observation deck, Lucy watched ships coming and going. Some carried human emergency teams heading to help with disasters. Others brought alien scientists eager to study with humans. "It's amazing how things have changed," said her alien deputy, wearing the latest protective suit designed by human engineers. "5 years ago, we thought humans were monsters. Now you're our greatest allies." Lucy smiled, remembering the fear in those early days. "We just needed to show you that being tough doesn't mean being dangerous." Dr. Carter ended his class with a question that had become famous across the galaxy. What turns a Deathworld species into a guardian species? His students, human and alien alike, answered together. Understanding, compassion, and the strength to help others. As the three suns set outside the academy windows, Earth spun on its axis thousands of light years away. Its storms still raged, its ground still shook, its life still evolved in ways that amazed the galaxy. But now its people had found their place among the stars, not as monsters from a deadly world, but as protectors who could survive anywhere. "You know what's funny?" John said to his teaching assistant after class. "We spent centuries looking up at the stars, wondering if we were alone. All this time, the galaxy was waiting for someone tough enough to help protect it." The future stretched out before them, full of new challenges and new worlds to explore. But now humans knew their purpose. They were the guardians, the helpers, the ones who could go where others couldn't. They were Earth's children, and they had finally found their calling among the stars.